Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, HorrorBoy465. Welcome back to some more reviews. And today, continuing my reviews on the Prom Night franchise, the fourth film in the Prom Night franchise, which sadly is not the worst one. There's the freaking remake, which is worse than this film. But talking about the fourth from the franchise, and that is Prom Night 4: Deliver Us from Evil. Now on the inside of this DVD, you've also got that poster. Prom Night 4 is an awful film. It's a sequel that is terrible. I might not even spend that much time in this review talking about the film. There's not much to it. It's a sequel, I believe was direct-to-video. Once again, direct-to-video, I believe. If this went to theaters, I'm very shocked, but I think this is direct-to-video. Even if it isn't, it looks like it's direct-to-video. But it's directed by some guy named Clay Boris. I don't know. I'm about to check his list and see what he's made. Apparently, his director Quiet Cool, The Gunfighters, Alligator Shoes. Not really sure. I'm not really recognizing any of these films. But Prom Night 4 is just an awful sequel. And believe it or not, I actually found out that it is connected to Prom Night 2 and 3 because at the beginning of this film you have these teens, this 1950s prom. They leave and they get killed by this psycho priest, which is the storyline for this film. I don't care about the storyline in this film. And basically, while that priest, which is possessed by the devil, I believe, and he's sort of psychotic. He believes about, he's trying to, basically these people who are sinning, he kills them. And that's pretty much the plot of the film is this priest, this crazy psycho priest running around killing people. I believe it's like a demon or the devil or something like that. At the beginning of the film, like I said, you have these kids getting killed off, and I guess it takes place on the same night of Prom Night 2. Like, I guess it takes place the same night that Mary Lou got set on fire, but in this film, this scene where these two kids, they go off in this car and they start making out, and the psycho priest comes up and kills them. I guess that's going on right as Mary Lou is getting murdered, and this movie's point of view is from the possessed, crazed priest, and it's a pretty stupid plot. I'm not a fan of the plot because the guy who played the killer priest, I'm trying to see who it was, did a really bad job. I'm just trying to see here. Try to get the name of the priest. I don't remember his name. But the guy who played the killer priest in this film, Father Jonas, played by James Carver, did an awful job as the killer in this film. Probably the worst. Now, I won't even say that. I won't even say he's the worst one because the guy in this film is even worse than the killer in this film, in Prom Night 4. Because in this film, it's a generic, typical, just nothing to it killer in this film. And also, the killer in this film is very dumb. The killer in this film, just very, very bad killer. The worst killer is in this film because he's freaking dumb. There's nothing to the character at all. But so yeah, the worst one is in this film. But still, probably the second worst one is in Prom Night 4 because the Father Jonas character, I did not care for this plot of during the night that Mary Lou was killed, this priest, this psycho priest possessed by a demon or the devil, went off and killed these kids, and basically, literally, the freaking church like freaking locks up this psycho and basically the bottom part of the church, and basically it's years later, and the priest escapes. There are these teenagers. I believe the film at the beginning takes place at Hamilton High School, but these teenagers, they're getting done with prom. The prom is barely in the film at all, and they leave. They want to go to some sort of hideout and chill. And just hang out. So they end up going to this sort of resort, this empty resort, or this empty house, and it ends up being the hideout for the Father Jonas character. and when they go in there, it becomes a slasher film, and they get knocked off one by one. And I'll give the movie this: it has some pretty decent effects. It really does. It has some decent effects. I don't mind some of the ideas, the fact that this killer priest has a holy water thing, but when he sprinkles it, it turns into flames. And he has a cross with a knife that comes out of it. I didn't mind some of the ideas, but most of the film is just very boring. And what's shocking is that I believe this is shorter than Prom Night 3. This is an hour and try to see here, an hour and 32 minutes, and Prom Night 3 is an hour and 37 minutes. So with this film, Prom Night 4 is shorter, but yet Prom Night 4 is more boring than Prom Night 3. I don't understand that. For me, Prom Night 3, maybe because there was more happening in Prom Night 3. Granted, it was not all good. Most of it was bad, but there was some good stuff in there. But there was more at least happening in Prom Night 3. Like I said, all of it wasn't good. Not all of it was good, but at least there was stuff happening. In Prom Night 4, a big problem with this film is that barely anything happens. You're following these teenagers, did not give a crap. They try to do this weird thing where I guess these teens, I think they're from a Catholic school, I believe. It's either that or I think I don't know if it's from a Catholic school or if it's from a different high school, I'm not sure. But there's this weird thing going on where this one girl is a lesbian and trying to, I don't mind it. I don't mind seeing some lesbian action in the film, but I'm just playing around, guys. But the one girl, she's like a lesbian, and she's trying to be with this one girl, but this one girl's not a lesbian, but yet they got that whole storyline going on. I'm not really sure about that. But hey, you do get some lesbians in this film. And pretty much the rest of the story is these teenagers. I did not care for these characters. They go to this house. It ends up being where Father Jonas is. He kills, starts killing them off. There's this one death scene where he crushes this dude's head. And then when he escapes, he ends up strangling a guy to death. The death scenes at the beginning of the film, a girl gets her throat slit and a guy gets stabbed multiple times. Some decent effects. Like I said, the movie has some decent effects. And also some decent death scenes. But as far as that goes, the movie has... It doesn't say here it's direct-to-video, but I swear it looks like it's direct-to-video. And the way that it's shot is nothing. Looks very low budget. Nothing to the characters, nothing to the dialogue. I did not care for this plot that, it is a sequel, because I thought it wasn't a sequel when I first watched it. I thought this was just a completely different film, but it is a sequel. And it's a very, very loose, I would say it's a very loose sequel. It's a very so-so sequel. It's one of those sequels where it barely has anything to do at all with the previous films, but they mentioned the Mary Lou character, and they mentioned that at the beginning of the film, it does take place around the Mary Lou storyline where she, gets murdered at prom. But I don't know. I did not care for the story of this killer priest possessed by a demon or possessed by the devil or something. And at the end of the film, it's a pretty typical slasher where, I don't mind this idea where these two characters looking for their friends. They go outside and the priest has actually crucified them and set them all on fire. And from there on, you have the lead girl. Did not care for the lead girl in this film. She is getting chased by the Father Jonas character. Ends up shooting him. He comes back to life, and then she uses his holy water on him, which was mentioned, but I've heard some people mention this, which was his own freaking weapon, and uses the Father Jonas's holy water, catches him on fire. He dies. that's pretty much the end of the film. There's not much to Prom Night 4. I know this was probably a very quick review, was 10 minutes, but you know, there's not much to Prom Night 4, Deliver Us from Evil. It came out in 1992, gets a 4.1 on IMDb. Um, it's I'm trying to see how much the budget was for this film. I don't even know if they have the budget on here, but I don't know. If it went to theaters, I'm very surprised because the movie looks like it's freaking low budget. Like it looks direct to video. So I have no clue if this did get to theaters. I have no clue how. It looks very low budget, so I don't know. It doesn't really say it's direct to video on here, but it looks like it's direct to video. But I don't know. I mean, there's not much to say. The characters are awful. It's a very, very, very loose sequel, but it's not as bad as the Prom Night remake. I would say that it's horrible. It's an awful remake. Definitely one of the crappiest remakes out there, or not remakes, sequels. My bad. But it's a bad sequel, but it's not as bad as the remake. I meant to say that. But it's definitely one of the worst sequels out there. It's just there's not much else I can say about it. The story, I don't care for the story. I don't care for the idea of, oh yeah, well it's a sequel, but not really because I mean it is a sequel, but barely a sequel because it doesn't really take place. It doesn't really have Mary Lou in the film, and she's not killing people, and instead, you got this sort of off to the side plot where this priest is possessed by this demon or the devil. And he's killing people and basically, for their sins and stuff like that. Just, I did not care for this plot line because it seemed just totally random. And I'll be honest, the first time I watched this, I did not know this had anything to do with Prom Night 2 or Prom Night 3. All I knew was this was a sequel, and I thought it was just its own sequel. But no, apparently there is Hamilton High in this film. There is a prom in this film. It does take place at the beginning of the film back in the 1950s, and I guess that's when Mary Lou was getting killed. But as that was going on in Prom Night 4, this killer priest was running around killing people. Just I did not care for the film. It has some decent makeup effects. It has some decent death scenes, but really there's nothing much else to Prom Night 4. There's nothing much to it. Now Prom Night 3, like I said, Prom Night 3 is not a good film. It's barely watchable. It's a very hard film to talk about, Prom Night 3, for me, because I don't hate it. There are some good things to it, but the movie as a whole is not a good film. But I can say it's at least watchable. Prom Night 4 is boring. And that's one of the biggest problems of the film, is that it's boring, horrendous acting, did not care for any of the characters, did not care for the story, looks cheap, and the DVD quality was pretty bad as well. It's not the TV edit because there's a lot of blood and stuff like that. So at least last time I seen it, I don't remember it being a TV edit. I remember it having blood and cuss words and stuff, so I don't think it's the TV edit, but still the quality is pretty bad. The picture and sound quality is pretty bad. But I don't know. There's not much else for me to say about Prom Night 4. It's just sort of a shorter review than the other Prom Night films, but I don't know what else to say. The story, I don't care for it. I do not care for this whole idea of the Father Jonas character being possessed, and this was all going on in the 1950s during the same night of the prom that Mary Lou got killed. It's just a straight up crappy sequel, just a very bad sequel. But it's bad, it's awful, but sadly, this is not the worst film in the franchise. That is sad. This film is the worst film in the franchise because one of the worst remakes of all time. This is an unrated version, but I think the original cut was PG-13. I don't know. I'll get to the Prom Night remake. It's extremely boring and extremely cliche. the killer in the film. There's nothing to the killer. There's nothing to the characters. The characters I do not care for at all in Prom Night the remake. So I'll get to that. I'll get to that review a little bit later. I'll be reviewing Prom Night 4, or not Prom Night 4, Prom Night the remake a little bit later. But Prom Night 4 is just a bad sequel. But sadly, it is not the worst one in the franchise. The Prom Night remake is. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. Not a fan of Prom Night 4. It's a very bad sequel. Do not like it at all. It's a very crappy sequel. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review on Prom Night 4, Deliver Us from Evil. And I will see you guys a little bit later on for the final review for the Prom Night franchise. Well, it'll definitely be a rant on Prom Night, the freaking remake from 2008, I believe. So yeah, I'm just gonna throw it because I freaking hate that remake. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my rant on Prom Night 4. It's just a bad sequel. And you know what? To be honest, I really would throw this DVD across the room. But for me, at least, it's kind of hard to find this DVD. So far, this is the only copy that I've seen on sale. So I'm trying not to break it right now because I don't really see it anywhere else. So I really would throw this movie across the room. Just because Prom Night 4 is in this double pack. But I won't because the DVD was kind of hard to find, and I don't remember paying a lot of money for it. I don't even remember how much money I paid for it. But still, it took me a little while to find this DVD, so I won't break it, even though I really do want to throw it across the room. But, you know, anyways, guys, thanks for watching my rant on Prom Night 4. It's just a crappy sequel. I don't care for it, and just a bad, awful sequel. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my rant on Prom Night 4, Deliver Us from Evil, and I will see you guys on the next review. Bye, guys.